Sean here with BaseMint Comics, and it is Tuesday, November 11th, the afternoon before New Comic Book Day. And so, as per usual, which has become the norm in the New Comic Book Day ride videos, the night before or morning of, before we hit the trails, I tend to go over books that I enjoyed from the week previous. Obviously, that's because I don't really read everything the day that it comes out, to try to have a more topical Wednesday video, because I like to absorb and enjoy the books. So that's the case there. I got merch for myself, no one else. Made a coffee cup with the logo. Okay, so of last week's books, I talked in depth about how I was a little down on Age of Revelation, and I was hoping that those books would kind of turn it around for me. And my favorite of the week, Amazing X-Men #2, actually did that. Didn't do much to better the entire event for me, but like this should have been Age of Revelation Overture. Like, I am very, very, very tired of like them not, by them, being Marvel writers, etc. Like, right there, Age of Apocalypse Alpha, okay, that was like a solid, this told you everything you need to know about the Age of Apocalypse in a 48 or 64 page one shot, and it was done. And this series has had Age of Revelation 0 and #1 and Alpha and Overture and all this stuff, and I still didn't really know what the crux was until issue #2. And so this is when the X-Men wind up in, the X-Men of this 10 years in the future wind up in Providence, Rhode Island, whereas the one place that Revelation won't go to, and that is an area that is clearly run by the Dark Child, Illyana's like a demon manifestation. And so our team of X-Men is there, and they are attacked by Juggernaut, and then this is quickly put down by one of the, what is it, 3X or whatever, the bad X-Men team that we were dealing with in the main regular X-Men title in our present. His name's Schwarzschild, which is, not something that's gonna look awesome on a trading card. We're really gonna work on that. So then it becomes like they basically, like, Scott and Darkchild are having this like battle of truths where they kind of duel it out, speaking truths to each other. And so one of her first truths is that these X-Men think you're a joke, and basically, like, Cyclops doesn't he doesn't really fight back very much in this issue, and Emma hits him with some low blows, and then and then Scott finally, and this is where like the event sort of changes for me, because like she basically, like, one of the truths that the Dark Child reveals to Scott is that like there was never any intention that Cyclops would succeed by being brought 10 years into the future. It was actually just a swap, and these X-Men are just humoring him. They are actually hoping that their Beast and their Scott 10 years in the past will be able to fix, to stop Revelation in the past. So while I enjoyed this, it did raise a ton of questions, because it's like, so this series where we're 10 years in the future, but we have yet to get a single glimpse of like our present with this Cyclops and this Beast back then. So if the real mission and like point of this is for them to go back there, shouldn't this be like kind of ping-ponging between the 10 years? Shouldn't we see our past X-Men? I don't, so yeah, maybe upon looking at this closer, there are some flaws. But there is a point where here in this panel, Scott explains like, you know, the thing is that my future self might have given up on these X-Men, not while I'm alive, not while I've got X-Men, a truth. And then he explains that like the Dark Child only exists to protect Ileana, which means the Dark Child failed, which obviously upsets this character. And he's basically he's like, I didn't fight back with any truce because I need I had to show this team of X-Men like what I was made of. And she's like, basically like, he's like, I needed to show you what I was made of. And she's like, me? And he's like, no, them. And then there's this is what sold it for me, was this panel right here where Cyclops turns to these X-Men and says, I can do anything, as long as I have the X-Men with me. I don't care that you kidnapped me, lied to me, you're the X-Men. If you're with me, we can make things right no matter what's in our way. And like, our Beast trapped in the mind of the 10-year in the future, weird-looking white Beast said I had almost forgotten how good he was at this. So these X-Men suddenly decide to be with him, and Psylocke, like, he's like, you're still wearing an X. You might be working with Revelation, but you're still wearing an X, so you're an X-Men. So Cyclops joins up, and she's like, I know what Revelation's trying to do. He's trying to bring about the end of the world. So that still not kick-ass, but that should have been 2 months ago. I don't know why they drug that out, but that should have happened a long time ago. So that is Amazing X-Men. Binary, I wasn't that impressed with. Laura Kinney, Sabretooth, I was not that impressed with. Although, however, the entire issue dealt with them getting to a gate that led them to Arakko, and it ended with them coming up on Apocalypse, and like the last page reveal was like, hey, how's Revelation doing? And so if this results in Apocalypse coming back, I'd be all for that, because Doug Ramsey as Apocalypse is not doing it for me. Long Shots was second issue was a letdown. I don't like, the book is like meta and making fun of the event while the event is happening, which makes me feel like the people who are taking my money for an event that isn't that great are like laughing at me while they're doing it, which is a bum out. Nobody wants that. So Long Shots, not great. Avengers was good. I'm still enjoying Avengers a lot. Happy that Imperial's over. I sort of like pulled up the Planet She-Hulk book because I do enjoy the character of She-Hulk, and thought about possibly picking that book up in retrospect, but then was like, nope, didn't really enjoy, like, Imperial didn't do much for me, and I don't think the book's coming out of that. Although at the very end of Imperial, it's funny because they've launched like, yeah, the last page kind of shows you like Imperial is over, but the story continues in Planet She-Hulk, which I contemplated at the rack, Nova, which I don't care about, Black Panther, Intergalactic, don't care about, Wiccan, which is Road, don't care about. But it said also coming soon, Imperial Guardians, and I was like, oh man, is that like, I suppose Imperial Guardians is probably going to be Guardians of the Galaxy, and so I don't care about that. But I think when I initially looked at it, I was thinking that maybe it was Imperial Guard, but it's probably not. It's probably a new Guardians of the Galaxy book, which I not going to be interested in. But it does mention Exiles, and Exiles was a book that I have the entire run in trade form. My wife got me those trades years ago for Christmas one year, and you know me, love a good alternate reality X-Men tale, and that book was a ton of fun. Sort of petered out towards the end, not in a bad way, but just not as good as, I think it was like Judd Winnick who was the writer of that in the early chunk of it, when it was firing on all cylinders and a ton of fun. And so the last book that I thoroughly enjoyed was Amazing Spider-Man number 979. And I've really been enjoying the Joe Kelly run on this book. I know there are people out there that are not enjoying the split, like Peter in space. It's a little bit weird. I get that. Spider-Man's more of a grounded hero. But the thing that I like about it is that it's doing something new. Like, I can't think of a time period where Peter spent a prolonged time period in space. And so that's been fun. His interactions with Rocket are good. Peter's heart in kind of the harsh climate of space is sort of an interesting, like, dynamic to be explored. And, you know, in this, he's sort of like tested in kind of a gladiator arena type of thing, and realizes during this that the suit, this little like techno-organic warlock-esque suit that he's got that was given to him by Xanto Starblood, is actually alive, and Peter is very much against this. And there's this cool double page spread where it sort of shows the warlock-esque suit creature like seeing Peter's memories and Peter seeing the suit's memories when they split. And so the suit becomes something else, and then Peter's left with like a lesser version of the suit that has weakened him, but he is still able to fight in this little gladiator thing. And it ends with one of the aliens on the team kind of kicking off a romantic relationship with Peter, which, you know, sure, I like soap operas in my comics. So those are the books from last week. It's Wednesday, November 12th. Hank and I have already hit the trails to the bike shop earlier today. Lots of stuff going on in old BaseMint Comics HQ. So we did that earlier. We're going to pretend, though, through the magic of editing, that we have not gone for the bike ride up to the shop to pick up our books yet. And so when we're back from that, we're going to talk about what we picked up this week and some other stuff. So stick around as we hit the trails. And we'll be back in a second. So that was a truncated version of our bike ride through the woods to our local comic shop. You know, it's like 2 minutes to you, but it's like 18 to 20 miles, depending on how we do it for us. So we are back. Hank is upstairs enjoying Winnie the Pooh, and I am down here to discuss the books that I picked up this week, some other things that I picked up, and some general comic chat. So let's get into it. So obviously from the video that I shot earlier the other day after reading all of my books. I thoroughly enjoyed, thoroughly might be a stretch. I enjoyed Amazing X-Men #2, but I am still not super thrilled with Age of Revelation. And this week's books are probably not going to do much to sway me in the other direction. Next week, I at least get Unbreakable, which is what's taken the place of Uncanny. But this week, I picked up Iron and Frost #2. I was like a week or two late on Iron and Frost #1 because for some odd reason my shop didn't get it. But I surprisingly, I enjoyed Gary Duggan's Invincible Iron Man run that kind of intertwined Tony and Emma during the Krakoan era. I really enjoyed that book. Thought Jerry, I don't know. I met him once at a con, and I should have figured that out. But so far, issue #1 was all right. It's good. But it's not like something that I'm going to be like, let me tell you all about it and gush about it. But hopefully, quality-wise, continues on. Here's #2, Rogue Storm. I'm a little bit confused by this one because Rogue is off the table in Unbreakable X-Men. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But young childhood me, first getting into the X-Men, Nightcrawler is my favorite, but when I was a kid and initially got into the X-Men, Gambit was my favorite before I saw Nightcrawler's introduction in the cartoon. So this clearly looks like it's going to involve some type of Gambit, which is also weird because he's tied up in Unbreakable X-Men. So I'm not 100% sure what's going down here, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Obviously, I bought it. And then last of the Age of Revelation books this week is Sinister's 6 #2. And yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about #1. So there you have it, my glowing reviews of the X-Men books right now. But each one of these has this ad for Sorcerer Supreme #1, and there's Gambit down there vying for the position of Sorcerer Supreme because he's been walking around with the Eye of Agamotto for the last year in Uncanny X-Men. So, look for me to pick that up in the future. Then I picked up, this is random, and it's written by J. Michael Straczynski, 1776. I imagine that there is going to be some time travel shenanigans involved in this, which I'm always a big fan of. And I mean, the cover's got Spider-Man and Cyclops, Iron Man, Sue Storm, Captain America, Doctor Strange, the Incredible Hulk. So that looks fun. I mean, if it's got Cyclops on the cover, I'm probably going to pick it up. So looking forward to reading this, seeing what it's all about. Like I said, I imagine there is some type of time travel chicanery going on, and perhaps our characters are going back to 1776. Spider-Man and Wolverine #7. I just noticed that the tagline of this is called The Deaths of Spider-Man and Wolverine. Interesting. Hank is clearly rolling something around on the floor upstairs. We have wood floors in the house. Cool acoustics. Not so great when he's rambunctious while I'm recording, but who cares? I'm not going to stop him from being him just because I'm recording a YouTube video. So, Spider-Man and Wolverine #7. I've been enjoying this title. First arc of it was really good. Mark Guggenheim is a good writer. I will talk about him a little later in the video when I talk about what I have going on this weekend. Cool Cyclops mug. So up next is Spider-Man 94. I had high hopes for this because I'm a big fan of the animated series, but I am not a big fan of Moreland. So that was kind of a bit of a bum out when it came to this. I was like, oh, Spider-Man 94, kick ass. And then it was like, oh, but it's a Moreland story. And I was like, oh no. So that's where I'm at. It's been fun. I wish it was drawn a little. There was like one very wonky panel of Peter where he just looked ridiculous in the first issue. The art is good. It's got a cartoony style to it, but I was kind of hoping that it would be a little bit closer to the actual cartoon animation style. But it has been a fun story. Anytime J.M. DeMatteis gets to write Spider-Man, I'm here for it, regardless of art. But this art is fun, like I said. You know, done by Jim Toe. He's pretty good. It's cartoony style. So up next, these last two books that I picked up as far as new books go this week are the two that I'm looking forward to the most. And number two is Amazing Spider-Man Torn number 2. When I initially talked about issue number 1, when I picked it up, I mentioned that I legitimately, when I saw the Amazing Spider-Man Torn number 1, I thought it was in reference to the fact that, because like obviously the way comic book solicits work, you're 3 months out and just kind of guessing, particularly if they do that really bogus move of writing like classified on it, and you're like, cool, it's classified, and you can't tell me anything about it other than that it's $5.99, which is ridiculous. And so I ordered Spider-Man Torn number 1 because I thought it was like one of those, like, yeah, we're telling a story in Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, but you need to buy this one shot. Like, I thought it was one of those things because I assumed that the Torn was in reference to the fact that there were 2 Peters, Space Peter and Earth Peter in Amazing Spider-Man, because I hadn't realized yet, because those books had not come out yet, that it's Peter's in space because he got like punched to space by Hellgate, and that Earth Peter is Ben Reilly masquerading as Peter, and Norman donning the tights and running around like a jackass, pretending to be Pete to kind of make amends. But I thought the Torn was like in reference to that, not that this was a mini of its own. So I had zero expectations going into number 1 and absolutely loved it. It's written by J. Michael Straczynski. He's a great Spider-Man writer. And it was nice to see the old gang. Like, this clearly takes place during the school days of Peter, early on, kind of one of those between the raindrops, how can we fit this into continuity stories? I love those. Like last year's Shadows of the Green Goblin was one of my favorite series of the year. And right now, after issue number 1, this one's kind of leaning towards being one of my more, we're gearing up for the year end when I look back on everything that I've purchased and figure out what my favorites were of the year. And Spider-Man Torn, so far, 1 issue in, is looking pretty good. So I'm excited to read issue number 2. And the book that I'm most excited for this week, goes without saying, it's my favorite Marvel title that doesn't have an X in it, is Fantastic Four number 731. And this one has a fun cover where Black Cat is obviously sneaking around and about to bump into the Invisible Woman. She's stealing Herbie. And I've been on, like, I will say it till I am blue in the face that Ryan North is crushing it on the Fantastic Four. It's been super fun. His first volume was great. This has been great. One World Under Doom has been fantastic, if not a little bit of a bum out, just because, you know, it mirrors some dystopian aspects of life these days. But this has been tons of fun. It's like, they're good, like, one and done stories. There's a lot of science to it. I'm learning stuff. I'm enjoying comics. It's great. It has 100% back to earning the title the world's greatest comics magazine. I'm sure that Batman, absolute Batman, kicking the crap out of white supremacists is great, and I'm all for it. But world's greatest comics magazine right here. So those were, that's the new books that I picked up. And I don't remember which video that I was talking about it in, but recently I mentioned that I was like thinking about picking up the Paul Smith. Like Paul Smith did a short art run on volume 2 of Doctor Strange in the 80s. It was like the series that started in the 70s after his first series was canceled because he has a great character that has a difficult time carrying a solo book. So I was looking around online and found a shop down south that was selling a lot, but also a lot of Doctor Strange, and they had the entirety of that Paul Smith, Roger Stern run, and it just so happened that the issues that they had before that were Doctor Strange that was written by Chris Claremont with art by Gene Colan. And I didn't realize that Chris Claremont had written any Doctor Strange. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll buy that. It wound up being about $1 for each issue. It was missing 72, so I picked up 72. This is from the Paul Smith run. And then I realized I had like all the way till 76, like somewhere in the 30s, all the way to 76. And there was only like 4 more issues. So I picked up a couple more issues of Doctor Strange from that particular run. I started reading the Claremont stuff the other night because that stuff is in 79. So I have like, and it was bi-monthly. So I have about 12 or 13 of those books that I need to get through before I can like drop that Doctor Strange run into the Corner Box Classics, which I'm looking forward to doing. And let me tell you, I'm like 4 or 5 issues into this Claremont written Doctor Strange stuff, and it's been fantastic. But then what happened was one of my least favorite things when it comes to reading old comics is I'm chugging along. It's like nighttime. I got some tea. I'm enjoying these Doctor Strange books. It's, you know, the wind's howling outside. It's like the perfect atmosphere for this. And I'm reading this great issue where like Strange is this long Mordo arc, and Strange is down in the Everglades, and so you're like, oh, we're gonna see Man-Thing. Sure enough, we see Man-Thing, and then what winds up happening is I get to the last page, and it's like, to be continued in Man-Thing number 4, and I was like, come on, because no shop in my area is going to have Man-Thing number 4. It's just not happening. Like, and I'm not going to drive around or bike everywhere and try to find this Man-Thing number 4. So I found it, but now I have to, I'm like chugging along, want to know where this is going. It's really good, and I got to wait. I got to wait until this shows up in the mail. So looks like it was initially supposed to be here Saturday. Looks like it'll probably be Monday. Fingers crossed that it'll be here Saturday, because I'm looking forward to finishing that off. But I grabbed some Doctor Strange. Previous to this, I have had this. I read this initially in a trade that I have, but I was looking forward to like passing the trade off to someone else. Doctor Strange: The Oath. It is a 5-issue miniseries written by Brian K. Vaughan, and it was my first introduction to Marcos Martin's art. And Marcos Martin is or maybe it's Martin, I'm not 100% sure. Fantastic artist. This is a wonderful 5-issue Doctor Strange story. It's great. Super cool introduction to the character if you've never read him before. If you're a fan and somehow missed this, do seek it out and give it a read. It is fantastic. And then the last back issue that I picked up today was Amazing Spider-Man 339, because I found it for $2. And I have a complete run of Spider-Man, but some of it is in Epic collections, which are great. But I would love, you know, there's nothing quite like cracking open the spine of some old comic and getting the old newsprint on your hands. So I know there's going to be some Spider-Man issues that are absolutely not in my budget. But this one at $2 was. So any time that I can chip away at one of those epic collections and kind of get that out of my collection and just stick with the single issues, I'm here for. So there you have it. Those are the back issues that I have picked up this week. I am looking forward to pulling Doctor Strange into the Corner Box Classics. And then this week, I went and picked up my Friday wristband for Motor City Comic Con. So I have been trying to whittle down this stack of comics that I would like to get signed by the guests that are coming to that con. I rarely go to cons on Saturdays or Sundays. It is not big on crowds, and I usually take Henry with me. And that tends to, like, he obviously is 3 and won't do great in a big crowd like that. So Friday is my jam. What I tend to do is I get there, line up for doors, hit up all the talent that I would like to meet, tell them how much I adore their work and how happy I am to have enjoyed it throughout my life. And then I usually split, and then I go get Hank, and then I bring him back and let him kind of dictate where we go from there. Motor City isn't necessarily known, at least in my experience, for having a lot of, it's like, it's either disorganized dollar bins, which drive me nuts because I just do not have the time to sit there and sift through Turok number ones for hours to hopefully find some issue that I'm looking for, because there ain't much left on the list. And so it's either like my general feeling from the last few times that I've been is that it's either like disorganized dollar boxes, or like I'm gonna have to sell a kidney golden age, and I don't even, whatever. Not really my cup of tea. So I'm going there mainly because Mark Waid's going to be there. Jay Lee. I've never met Jay Lee, and he was the artist on X Factor during Executioner Song, which was one of my favorite things ever. The only piece of original art I have is from Uncanny X-Men 321. It is a Charles, and it's Legion Quest leading into Age of Apocalypse, and it is the first page of that issue where Charles and Magneto are having drinks in their younger days at a bar, and I love it, and I have it signed by the artist Ron Garney when I actually bought it in New York years and years ago. And so Tim Townsend, the inker, is going to be there. Mark Waid, because this page actually has dialogue on it, and Mark Waid was the writer of this issue, and he's going to be there. So I was like, oh, it'd be pretty cool to have these guys sign some original art. And I obviously have a hefty stack of comic books that I have to go through, because I usually, like, I take all this stuff in the hopes, like, I'm a personally sign it to me, like it's my collection, like these are my copies that I read obsessively, and I always get bummed out when I go and they're like, oh yeah, it's $35, because like I'll bring like 3 or 4 things that really mean something to me, and then I inevitably have to whittle it down, or not get something signed if some artist is charging ridiculous. I get it. I get it to an extent. I understand if somebody comes up to you with a long box of like one issue, because I've had that happen to me where I've been stuck behind that guy that's like clearly like this dude is flipping all of this stuff, and I don't care. Like, if that's what you want to do, fine. But I get that this is beget like these guys starting to charge a lot for signatures, and I've had some people that like, hey, we charge, but it goes to the Hero Initiative. I'm all for that. That's great. And I understand this is how these guys are making money because, you know, deals in comic books and IP and all that stuff is not great. You know, but I wish there was like a, hey, if you're getting this personalized, it's $5. And if you're not, it's 20 instead of just it being like a flat 20 across the board. But that's just me. That's how I feel about it. And so normally I don't spend much with the vendors at cons because I'm broke by the time I'm done getting people to sign stuff. And since I brought up those Chris Claremont Doctor Strange issues with Gene Colan art, I will tell you, I went to New York Comic Con in 2008, I think. My sisters had gotten together as a gift for me and bought me a meet and greet with Stan Lee. And so I drove out to New York and spent the weekend in the city hanging out. With obviously the intention of meeting Stan Lee. And, you know, it was great. I met Stan. It was fantastic. I met Peter David. That was great. Brian Michael Bendis, who's returning to Avengers. That's exciting. John Romita Jr., John Romita Sr. There were a lot of people there that I met. And Gene Colan was at a table. And, like, nobody was there. You know, people were, that's actually where I bought that original art piece and had Ron Garney sign it. At the time, with what I had read of comics and the things that I was interested in, Gene Colan wasn't like, I wasn't familiar with his work. And it wasn't until a few years later that I had become familiar with his Daredevil work. And then the other night when I was reading these Doctor Stranges, I was like, damn, this guy's killing it. And it just sort of like kind of bummed me out when I think back. Like, I often think back to that. I guarantee you there were people, I just looked over there and there was nobody at his table. I guarantee you that there were people at his table all day that were gushing over him. I'm sure he had a great time. But I just sort of remember that moment. And like when I read that he passed, it just sort of bummed me out. It bums me out that old guard is just, you know, passing away. So when I go to cons now, as opposed to trying to like, I mean, my collection is, you know, I'm like, you know, I stumble upon like Doctor Strange and I'm like, oh, and I buy a lot of it and then I'm like, oh, I'm done. So now mostly it's recognizing that Gene Colan moment and being like, I should go talk to creators and thank them for the joy that their work has brought me. So that's what it is. That's my main goal at conventions, is to high five creators and let them know that what they did mattered to me. So that's it. I know I have a Corner Box Classics waiting. It was a pretty big week, so that's going to be a big one. I'm sure that I will film stuff at the convention, and at least, I don't know, I'm not the best at, like, I'm not going to like walk up to creatives and be like, ugh, and I'm not going to be asking anybody to do like BaseMint Comics bumpers or anything. It's not my jam. But I will probably talk about the books that I got signed and why I got signed them, and I will probably complain about the prices that people are charging for signatures. But I'll still be part of the problem because I'll probably pay it. So, if I have not rambled too long, if you enjoy what I'm doing, it would be awesome if you subscribed, commented, liked, and so on and so forth. Do all the things that you're supposed to do to help a lovely, tiny, up-and-coming YouTube channel grow. And so yeah, so that's it. Thanks for tagging along on this trail ride with me and the kid while we picked up some comics and some back issues, and I complained about the state of X books. It's awesome. So I will see you in the next Corner Box Classics. Bye.